it's MissSimReno. If you are returning to the channel, welcome back. And if you are brand new, I am very excited that you decided to join me here today for another speed build. And today we are back in Brindleton Bay, a world that I build in quite often. Typically, I'm making residential lots in Brindleton Bay, not making community lots. However, I felt as though community lots were somewhat not lacking in this world, but kind of needed a revamp. So we have the bar, I think it's considered. Yeah, it's the bar that's down by the pier there. We do have the lighthouse, which is a museum, which is actually pretty cool. And I plan on doing a lot with that one because I love that idea. And we also have, I think it's basically like a lounge, that huge one that's kind of really fancy that overlooks the ocean. I think those are the only community lots we have in this world. So I wanted to make a retail/cafe lot so it can run as either. If you run it as a retail shop though, you might have to actually hire a barista, I believe, if your sim goes to visit that lot, because one will not automatically come to the lot if it's set as retail. And if it is run as a cafe, then you can't buy anything on the lot that may be set for sale if it was run as a retail lot. So that was kind of a mouthful, but it can function as either. I would just say the best recommendation is to run it as a retail lot and then just hire a barista and pretend like they were there when your sim arrived. That might be the best way to do it. But I thought this was a really cool idea, and it was a nice lot to do it on because it really contributed to the name that I came up with. So this is called Oddities on the Pier, as you probably already gathered from the title of this video to begin with. However, it's basically like a trinket and cafe combined. Trinket store, not a trinket itself. A trinket store combined with a cafe. So when we get inside, you are going to see 1,000,001 shelves covered with 1,000,001 random clutter objects, sculptures, decorations, and plants. And I had an absolute blast pulling out all of these random items, no rhyme or reason, no theme, no nothing, just wall-to-wall coverage. All of the shelves are completely stacked with items, and I just thought it was so much fun. Like, this would be a store that I would love to go in. I was originally thinking of kind of like an antique store, but I really didn't want to limit myself on filling up those shelves. So I just went full out, use anything possible that can go on a shelf and look like a bunch of random clutter. So I thought it was really, really neat, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. But the outside structure is pretty much almost together. I at first was trying to avoid it looking like a house, but at the end of the day, I thought it was actually kind of nice. Like, maybe this was a ranch style home at one point and they added the second floor and they kind of built it up into this kind of little old antique shop, and maybe the cafe came in afterwards and that was kind of an addition. I don't know, the thought is kind of cool because Brindleton Bay strikes me as not necessarily a historical town, but that a lot of the structures have been there for a long time, because it seems like this town really does depend on like the fishing industry and stuff like that, which is super cool to me. And I feel like in towns like that, because I am from New England, so a lot of like these little beach towns, that industry is basically the heart of the town, and it's been around for a very, very long time. Like, there are a lot of historical roots to it. So I did like the idea of this being like an older kind of structure and it being kind of built up, not modernized, but at least built up and renovated and maybe added onto to continue adding that value to the community and kind of like the economic structure in the community, which is maybe a lot of deep thought for a community lot build in The Sims 4, but that's where my head goes. I think the return on investment here would be tenfold. That's what I think. And now I'm just adding a little deck around this structure, and the lot was kind of tiny, so I did have to move the overall structure around a little bit to add this deck. You can see me kind of shuffling it around a few times because I did want it to somewhat wrap around to the back. I didn't want the back to have no character to it or dimension. I didn't want it to just be flat because first off, it looks funny. And second, I didn't think that was going to be realistic, because if this pier is active, like you have a bunch of Sims walking around it, buying fish at the little fish market there, or going to the bar, and then stopping in at these shops, it wouldn't just be flat on the back. There wouldn't be a lack of windows, there wouldn't be a lack of maybe the deck or some shrubbery or maybe some places to sit. So I wanted to make sure there was something there. So here I'm adding the windows and some flower boxes. And what I end up doing is adding some vegetation in that little corner because I thought it was an appropriate place to do so, but I also tossed 2 benches back there underneath those flower boxes to the left because I thought that was kind of realistic. So someone who's walking along the back, they won't necessarily enter the cafe from the back, though they can, but they could also sit on these benches and just kind of sit on the pier and enjoy their day. So that was my kind of thought process, just for that touch of realism. And now I'm just pulling out some signs that I thought would work for the exterior. So the building on the left is the little trinket store, and the little building on the right is the cafe. And even though it's called Oddities on the Pier, I was also trying to think of a name for the cafe. So if you did run it as a cafe, what could the name be, right? And I was thinking, since I hung that little pig plaque there, I don't know, it could be like Big Pig Pete's Cafe or something. I have no idea, but I was trying to think of a name that would kind of work with that pig plaque. So, I mean, I'm not extensively creative, so maybe you guys can come up with something better. But now we are onto the inside of the structure, and I'm just adding the shelves here to kind of create the layout that I'm going to be striving for. So I wanted it to line up with that archway, but it was kind of impossible considering that the archway is not in the middle of the room, though it's in the middle of the structure itself, just because the dimensions of the buildings are a little bit different, if that makes sense. And here we go, starting to bring out everything possible to put on these shelves. So I put that little, I think it's a prop technically from Get Famous, the little hardware set. I add a bunch of sculptures, some plants. There's my sim dolls. There are elements. There are little things in jars. There's pots and pans and statues and canned goods. And it is just, I'm like so thrilled with it. So if you've never been to New England, a lot of the beach towns have like basically strips of little stores. So it could either be on like a boardwalk, or it's a place like, oh, what's a good example? I don't know, maybe like a place in Maine is my main thought. I'm not actually from Maine, but I've been to Maine a few times, and there are a few places like Algonquin. That's a great example. If you haven't been to Algonquin, Maine, look it up. It is absolutely precious, but there are basically streets that are lined with little shops. So either it's little antique shops or like little art exhibits and stuff like that, and it's super cute. But a lot of those like antique shops or little trinket shops are just wall-to-wall coverage. All the shelves are filled with things. The walls are literally covered with everything imaginable. And it's basically a mixture of random things that can be keepsakes if you are basically on a trip there. That's my thought, at least, like a bunch of little rare finds, a bunch of little oddities that you may not find elsewhere. So that's what I was trying to kind of portray here. So there's a mixture of like vases. I'm gonna say vases. Vases made me sound real weird for a second. But there's like train models and different like awards and different kind of like toys and stuff like that too. So I don't know, you could also make this your own. Like you could remove some of the shelves of clutter and add a bunch of toys if you wanted to make it like a little toy store or something like that. And another original idea that I had for this was making it strictly like nautical goods, because I mean, we're on a pier, we're right near the ocean, right? But there just were not enough items, at least in my head, that would work for that theme specifically. So I didn't end up sticking with that, but here we are, about maybe 5 minutes into me just cluttering up shelves, and it's pretty much going to continue for the next, I don't know, like 5 to 10 minutes or something like that, because I did not skimp on anything. I left no empty space. I started pulling out just random things without even looking at them half the time, and just making sure that every inch of surface on these shelves was completely covered by random items. And you guys will have to tell me, like, so far, what would be considered to you the oddest item that I have taken out so far? Even at the end, once I like finish cluttering up the shelves, let me know what the weirdest item is that I pulled out that would kind of like shock you the most, or something that you would consider an oddity in a trinket store like this, because I'd be really interested. I think for me, technically via the name of the item, I think it's like it's like a jarred alien or something like that, which is super weird. Didn't really look at the name as I placed it on a shelf, but that's okay. That would be the weirdest thing for me. Or it would be like the Nutcracker or the little sand snowman, I think, because those are just so weird. Or maybe even the bowling pin. I don't know. So far, that's what I would think. But here in the middle, I did just take a bunch of book displays as well because I didn't have enough clutter items to actually put there. At least not items that would size down appropriately, that were sculptures or stuff like that. So I wanted there to be some other things to look at as well, because not everyone's in there just to get a trinket, I suppose. And now I'm off to these back shelves, so this is pretty much the tail end of the clutter. Oh, actually, I take it back. I think the laundry detergent is probably the weirdest one that I put in here, because that's not really a trinket. It's just like a discarded item or a random item. So that might be it. Maybe even the backpack. I don't know. I was really reaching for some items at this point. I ran out, and that's saying something because I clutter up a lot of my builds, as you guys probably know if you have watched my channel, but this took it to a brand new level. I have never cluttered this much before, and granted, I was really pleased with how it turned out. It ended up getting really hard. Like, I was starting to use things that just didn't even make sense. Like this pitcher. I mean, I guess that works, but like the little soap dish, that doesn't necessarily work. There's soap on it. Like, why would you be selling a soap dish with soap on it? I don't know. And also just that little thing of like oranges. I'm just gonna say they're fake because for the sake of this, that would be real weird if they were real oranges. And then one of the, I think my favorite items I used in this was the little chemistry set, or like the little beakers and vials and stuff that we got with Strangerville. That's like some form of clutter that you could put on a desk or a table or something like that. I put it on this top shelf, and I really liked that. And I really liked the box that we got on that bottom shelf with City Living that has a bunch of random items that your Sims can actually search for snow globes in. I thought that was kind of a neat idea. So I was really happy with those two items in particular, if I'm gonna have to pick like one or two of them. But yeah, we're actually almost done. Isn't that crazy? We are almost done cluttering all of the shelves. So I can't wait to hear what you guys think about this. It's gonna be really neat. And now, so that jar there, that's like that jarred alien or something like that. You will see in about 2 seconds that I don't put it back on the shelf. So in the screenshots, you may see a floating jar. I apologize about that because I completely forgot about it. It was kind of hard to keep my eyes in the appropriate spot, but I tried to keep the screenshots out that had it floating in midair because I realized that looked silly. And at that point, I was almost too lazy to go back and take it out for the sake of these screenshots. So, sorry about that. And now I'm finally moving on to the walls. So again, a random mixture of clutter items, some of which are nautical, some of which are not at all. Just wanted to keep the walls completely covered. And that was actually a lot of fun because it took a lot of finagling, whereas on these shelves, it was easy to kind of clutter them up and toss things in random spots. But on the walls, I had to make sure that most of the wall was covered, which means that I had to get the right sized items. So that was really fun to look for because I could use either like wall decorations, I could use paintings, and other random clutter items just all together. So this was really fun, and you could already kind of see, at least hopefully, my vision coming together with it all, where it is just stacked to the nines. You could buy any of these items at all and just kind of pretend that it was a novelty from your trip to the beach or something like that. I don't know. It was so much fun. I can't even emphasize that enough. This was an absolute blast to make. And it took a very long time, as you can see, just to pull everything out. So my videos are usually at 6 speed, so you could just imagine how long this actually took, or you could legitimately calculate it, but it took a long time. It probably felt longer than it actually took, but it was really fun. And this is probably the finishing touch that I am putting on the walls right now before I select a wallpaper. And I choose the one that we got with cats and dogs because I think it fit the vibe absolutely perfectly. I toss in some lights here and a little trash bin behind the counter, and then I move on to the cafe. And the cafe is very small. I will admit that it's very tiny, but I think it was really cute. So I do put those counters in front of the windows there. There's a lot of natural sunlight here, and I forgot how big this item is here, the actual what am I trying to say? It's like the espresso bar. It was actually a pretty big item, so I didn't think I was going to be able to fit it at first. So I do actually have to get rid of those windows there on the back because I wanted to make sure there was a place for the menus and some shelves here to display some different bags of coffee and mugs and other kind of coffee accessories. So there's like a little milk pitcher. That's not right. It's not really a pitcher, but it's really cute. And also the little milk jugs and, like I said, some other mugs and things like that. So all of these things are in the debug menu, and they are great decorations. Pardon my sniffling there. My allergies are acting up again. You guys are going to hear this potentially in other videos, so I am so sorry. But yeah, it was really fun. So I was thinking that these things might be on sale at the cafe themselves. Maybe I'm thinking it's like a local cafe, so maybe this is like their local coffee that they actually produce themselves, like Oddity Coffee or something, or whatever you want to name this place. And I thought that was a nice idea because it does kind of give you that sense of home and kind of like supporting local businesses and something and stuff, which I actually really enjoy doing. So yeah, I had so much fun. Like, this is maybe one of my favorite builds, and it actually took me a long time. So not even the length of the video. Like, I've been working on this build. For me, this is a long time. I've been working on it for probably a couple weeks now. And for it to only be like an 18-minute video or something like that, it was a lot of work to put in for like an 18-minute video, but it was totally worth it. It was just hard to come up with the outside structure for me. Because like I said, community lots are a little intimidating for me, actually. But once I get an idea, I have to bring it to fruition. Like, I cannot not do it. I can't let it linger. So I had to keep coming back to it if I got frustrated, or if I just kind of like had a complete brain block, which I'm partially having now in the middle of my voiceover. But I'm really glad that I was able to finish it. And then I just move on to the deck outside and add some tables with umbrellas and some other single tables just with a couple of chairs, because it is a cafe, so I want there to be some kind of seating area. Since the inside's very small, it kind of has to be outside. But I thought it was really appropriate, and I really like how this came out. So I hope you guys enjoyed it too, and if you have any other ideas for community lots, definitely let me know, because I'm always willing to try new things. And that's pretty much it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I can't wait to hear your thoughts, and I'll catch you next time I post a video. Bye!
I would be up waiting for you if you had to leave. I would wait a lifetime if you were at sea. I just wanna say that I feel that our love is real. Maybe we should hurry up and seal the deal. I just wanna love you right. Love you till the end of time. I just wanna hold you for forever. Every day you're making me better. 'Cause a love like this is rare, and I wanna take you there.